Alright guys, what is going on? Hope y'all are having a good day, good night, whatever it is for you, man. Um, in this video, I'm gonna be going through my top 6 candidates that I'd like LSU to give a look at, man. Or really top 5 and one that, I'd be okay with. There's a name on this list too that nobody's really talking about, at least I haven't seen it mentioned. Um, yeah, I think it could be a pretty good freaking hire, to be honest with you. This one person that nobody's really talking about. But to start off the video, we're gonna go from 1 through 6. It's not really in any order, honestly. But this one here is my top pick for the head coaching job, and that is Lane Kiffin. Now, this is a popular pick among LSU fans. A lot of people want Lane Kiffin as the head coach. Florida wants Lane Kiffin as the head coach badly. Um, I saw Florida threw out like an $81 million offer. I don't know how true that was, but it's what I saw on social media, on Twitter, where I get a lot of my news is on Twitter from reliable sources. I don't really listen to anybody else other than like Ross Dellinger and the college football media people on Twitter, man. That's mainly who I go off of. Um, now, there's been a lot going on about is Lane Kiffin, like, would he leave Ole Miss? Now, honestly, if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm staying put. I'm not leaving. I got everything rolling for me at Ole Miss. I am the guy at Ole Miss. I am Ole Miss. Like, Lane Kiffin is Ole Miss. He could be the greatest coach in Ole Miss history. He is the guy. He could have a statue built for him on campus. If he goes to LSU or Florida, man, he's among other very good coaches, among other championship winning coaches. And honestly, if you go to LSU, the standard is you better be winning football games, bro. You better be having playoff appearances. Something, he hasn't done yet. So, it'd be a pretty big risk going to LSU. I think he'd be the perfect fit at LSU. Just his attitude, just the way he carries himself. I think he'd be perfect, man. Now, Lane Kiffin did put out a tweet on Twitter the other day, yesterday maybe. It was like Velvet Ditch or something like that. Do your thing, and Velvet Ditch, I can't exactly explain it to you. I guess people in Oxford know what it is, but it's pretty much like a place that you can't leave, really. And he had a picture of his family, at Vaught Hemingway Stadium, and had the home emoji, like the house emoji, like this is home. So, it'd be kind of bad, very bad on Lane Kiffin if he were to do that, and then at the end of the season he leaves. That'd be such a stab in the back of Ole Miss, man. Um, if he were to leave after doing that. So I don't know what the chances are Lane Kiffin leaves, but LSU's gonna try. Florida's gonna try to get him. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see if money talks. I know he said money doesn't really matter to him. It doesn't bring happiness. He said that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see, man. But I brought up his coaching history here. Tennessee 7-6, had his stint at USC, Florida Atlantic, won 11 games twice there. And now at Ole Miss, he's on the verge of having his fourth 10-plus win season and possibly a playoff appearance. The rest of the schedule for Ole Miss looks very, promising for them. If they can win out or even lose just one game, they could be in the playoff. If they win out, they're in the playoff. If they lose one game, they could probably still find their way to the playoff. Um, yeah, man, he's really solid. Almost a 70% career winning percentage. He'd be really good, bro. And the thing about Lane Kiffin is, he had a really talented team last year, probably the most talented team he's had there. Won 10 games, comes back the very next year and is having maybe an even better year. We'll see how it turns out, man. If they don't, stumble down the stretch here. But yeah, Lane Kiffin is my number one option. On to option number 2. Now again, this is in no order, but John Summerall. this is a name that's been floating around as well. I don't know how high on the list John Summerall is going to be, um, but he would be a really, really solid hire. You see, he's only been a head coach. He's on his 4th year being a head coach. 2 years at Troy, he went 12-2, 11-2, made the jump to Tulane, went 9-5 in his first season. And then he's off to a 6-1 start this year. So he's 38-10 overall. Been doing a great job at both schools, Troy and Tulane. So, I've heard things about how, since the governor of Louisiana wouldn't really like Summerall going to LSU. Like, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for Summerall to go from an in-state school like Tulane to LSU. The big money maker of the state, which, I mean, that right there, it makes a whole lot of sense to me. LSU is the money maker. It's one of the biggest money makers in Louisiana. Like, I would think it would make a whole lot of sense to give LSU that best coach. But I would like him, man. I like what he's doing. He's young. I believe he's like 45 years old, 43. I think he was born in 82 when I looked it up. So I think he's like 43, 42, 43 years old, something like that. Depends when his birthday is. But yeah, really young, hungry. I love watching his press conferences, his interviews, man, just the way he talks. He's about that business, man. He's about football. He's about winning games. And he's just like Lane Kiffin. He's hungry, man. So I would love to have Summerall again. I don't think LSU's paying this massive buyout. I know there was a private donor, and I've seen reports of the buyout for Brian Kelly being brought down to like 20-something million dollars because Brian Kelly violated something in the contract. That's what I heard. And I heard a private donor is taking care of like north of $25 million, which is massive for LSU. But yeah, LSU's not broke like people think they are. They're not. They're gonna have money to throw around, bro. Because the narrative keeps going around that LSU can't afford Lane Kiffin and all these other coaches because they're paying the buyout. They're gonna spend money, bro. They're gonna have the money. You don't have to pay Brian Kelly all at once. It's gonna be over like a couple years, so like it's a monthly payment kind of thing. But yeah, Summerall. I don't know if LSU would pay that buyout, that $54 million buyout, because they didn't know they were going to get that private donor that came in, or maybe they did. Maybe that was a thing that was mentioned when the firing happened, but I don't think LSU would go along with this buyout to go and then hire John Summerall. I think LSU has a plan. I think they had their candidates in mind. And I think they're going to be swinging pretty big, bro. Even though that's what got us hurt last time with Brian Kelly, I don't think we're going to make that mistake again, hopefully. The next coach can't be as bad as Brian Kelly because the next coach is surely going to at least care. But the big thing is you have to get a coach that understands Louisiana and loves Louisiana, wants to be at LSU, loves LSU. Summerall gets Louisiana, and he has connections in Louisiana, being at Tulane on his 2nd year now. Recruiting connections and all this. He's a likable guy, so I would like to have Summerall. On to option number 3, Nick Saban. Now, do I expect this to happen? Not really. But if there is any school that Nick Saban would get back into coaching for, it would be LSU, because he said his biggest regret is leaving LSU. And I think the big thing with Nick Saban, why I would like to have him, yes, he's old. I don't really want an older coach, but Nick Saban would be the exception to that. But I think getting Nick Saban on board, that is going to push away any rebuild. You know, LSU can immediately be good in year one under a lot of coaches. But Nick Saban, he is going to get so many high school recruits that want to come to LSU because of him, so many transfer portal players that want to come to LSU because of him. Um, so he'll have a plethora of talent at his fingertips, more than he will already have at LSU. So I think it would make it less of a rebuild if we have him for like what 5 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever. Um, Another thing is when Nick Saban leaves, um, he could possibly appoint the next head coach to follow him at LSU. After he retires, he could appoint someone else that is going to take his place. Like he could give a suggestion. Nick Saban's the GOAT, man. He's the greatest coach of all time. I would trust his input over anybody else's. He's made so many good hires at Alabama, so many good coordinator hires, assistant hires. Look what he did to Kirby Smart, man. Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. Like those are all people that worked under Nick Saban. Like, and they're all head coaches at Texas, Ole Miss, and freaking Georgia. Kirby Smart has 2 national freaking championships, man. Steve Sarkisian almost played in a national championship as a head coach. So I would trust nobody more than Nick Saban to give a suggestion or appoint the next head coach that would follow him at LSU. So I think that would be a really, really big plus. Um, and yeah, man, like I said, I don't expect it to happen, but he's the greatest coach of all time. I don't have to even show his records here, man. But if you want to have a look at him, there you go. Just insane. In freaking insane. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 straight double-digit win seasons. All the national championships, bro. Like, yeah. 80% win percentage as a coach in his career. Just ridiculous. So, yeah. I think the big poll about having Nick Saban would be him and the staff he could put together and, who he could appoint to follow him as head coach after he leaves. Next up on the list, Frank Wilson. He's the interim head coach at LSU right now. Now, I know you're going to look at those records down there and be like, oh, that's not too great at all. I know. Last time he was a head coach was 2019. So he's coached all 4 years as a head coach at UTSA. 6-7, 6-5, 3-9, 4-8. He had a New Mexico Bowl loss. It's been 6 years since he last was a head coach. Now, I will say I watched a press conference that Frank Wilson, I almost said Marco Wilson, the freaking shoe game, the guy who threw the shoe for Florida, that cost him the game in the playoffs, possibly. But yeah, Frank Wilson, I watched his press conference earlier. It felt so energizing. It felt so good, like a breath of fresh air listening to Frank Wilson talk, man, at that press conference. Just the passion that this man has for LSU. It's what we've been needing. We didn't see that same passion from Brian Kelly. Frank Wilson would use the words we when and us when talking about LSU and the team. Brian Kelly would use they and them. Like when talking about the players, he'd be like, they need to execute better. It's not we need to execute better. He always, felt so distant. And when you hear things about Brian Kelly, it was always that like he hardly even knew some of the coaches or didn't even talk to some of the coaches that were hired this past season. It's like, how do you not know how do you not know who's on your own team? So he was like distant from, he was kind of standoffish is what I've been hearing, and it was a very toxic place at LSU is, kind of the thing that's going around. Which I agree. Brian Kelly's not a likable guy. He's really not. He comes off like that. He screams at people. When does he have time to coach if he's screaming at somebody every time the camera cuts to him? But Frank Wilson has that passion. He has that love for LSU. Last time we saw that was Coach O, and we saw what Coach O did. Not saying Frank Wilson would have the greatest team of all time, part two. But it's been 6 years since he last coached as a head coach. We'll see how these 4 games go. I think LSU. I think you're going to get the best version of LSU these next 4 games. A better version than you see all season. The players love Frank Wilson. Everybody loves Frank Wilson, bro. And whoever the next head coach is, if it's not him, needs to keep Frank Wilson on staff and Corey Raymond. Those two need to stay. You do not get rid of Frank Wilson. He is Louisiana, bro. You do not get rid of Frank Wilson. He is the reason why you've not seen any decommitments from LSU after Brian Kelly got fired. Because you don't commit to LSU for the coach. You commit for LSU. Kids in the state of Louisiana, they grow up wanting to play at LSU, bro. That's just how it is, really. And Frank Wilson even got a commitment after Brian Kelly got fired. He gained a commitment. So, yeah, you keep Frank Wilson on staff. What if this is my thing? What if Frank Wilson comes out, beats Alabama, gets a win over Oklahoma and Arkansas, Western Kentucky. He goes 4-0 in these 4 games. Makes a bowl game, gets a win, gets us to 10 wins. You gotta throw his name in there, right? Especially if LSU looks head and shoulders better than what they have the whole season prior to him taking over. You gotta give Frank Wilson a look, man. What if he goes 3-1 or 4-1 with a loss in the bowl game, 4-1 with a loss to Alabama, 4-1 with a loss to Oklahoma? If he goes 4-1 to end this season, I think he'll also be getting a look. Yeah, I think you should definitely give him an opportunity, bro. He loves LSU, so, and everybody loves Frank Wilson in Louisiana, man. And just his press conference, even if you're not an LSU fan, bro, I would recommend going and listening to that today. His press conference today, it was so freaking good, man. He killed that. But on to the next one. Eli Drinkwitz. Now, I've seen that he is the betting favorite to take over the Florida job today. He's like minus 150. I don't remember where those odds were, if it was Vegas or whatever it was. I don't remember. But he's been solid, man. He's working, he's had 2 straight 10+ win seasons. Could have another 10-win season here. Even if he loses one more game in a regular season, he could win the bowl game and get back to a 10-win season. He did lose his quarterback, though. I don't know what happened to Bo Pribula. He had an air cast on when he left that game. I don't know what his injury is or how long he's out. But losing your starting quarterback is going to hurt. So we'll see what happens with Drinkwitz, how he can end the season here. He's at Appalachian State, had a 12-1 record, got hired by Missouri, 5-5 in the COVID year, 6-7, 6-7. Then he started really taking off. 11-2 year, beat Ohio State in the bowl game. 10-3. I think he'd be solid. He's not my top choice, honestly. He'd probably be about 4 or 5, really. But if it came down to it, we could do a lot worse than Eli Drinkwitz. How would his personality fit at LSU? I don't know, man. He's it'd be interesting. It'd be an interesting fit. It wouldn't be as bad of a fit as Brian Kelly was, but it's not gonna be I don't think it'd be a very good fit personality-wise. But if you win games, and this is the same shit we said about Brian Kelly, if you win games, the weird fit doesn't matter. So I don't know, man. I'd be okay I wouldn't necessarily like Eli Drinkwitz. I wouldn't dislike it. I'd be neutral about it until I see what he could do, in year one. I'd be neutral, man, but it is someone that I wouldn't mind. It's a name that I've been seeing thrown around. Um, yeah. On to the name that nobody's really talking about. Chris Peterson. I've not seen this name thrown around at all. I've seen assistants like Glenn Schumann being thrown around, Kelvin Shepard in the NFL, which I would like him, but he has no head coaching experience whatsoever. So, I'm a little bit hesitant on that, but, Kelvin Shepard's a guy who is a former player. He loves LSU, gets Louisiana, man. He would bring that dog mentality back. Um, the LSU of old, the physicality, he would bring that. But Chris Peterson is who we're talking about here, so let me not get sidetracked and talk about Kelvin Shepard. Last time Kelvin Shepard coached was Washington 2019. Now he's working at he has an analyst job at Fox, I believe. Yeah, I mean, look at what he did at Washington, man. 2016 to 2018 had more than 10 or more wins. Lost a bowl game in all those years. Made a playoff appearance. Twice, 3 times? I can't remember. Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Rose Bowl. I can't remember which of these was playoff years, but I think 2 of these were playoff seasons, maybe. I can't remember, man. I think this one was. But yeah, really solid, man. I mean, look at his whole career. 14 years of coaching, and he only had 4 years where he had less than 10 wins. I mean, I would 100% give Chris Peterson a call. He's 55 years old. Who knows how badly he wants to get back into coaching, but this is a name that I've not been seeing thrown around, and it's a name that I would 100% give a call, and see, gauge his interest. I mean, he had 2 undefeated seasons at Boise State, bro. So yeah, that's the name that I'm surprised no one's talking about. It'd probably take a hell of a lot of money to get him away from Fox. I mean, it's like Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban has more years coaching, but Peterson has a 79.795 win percentage in his career. Nick Saban had an 80% winning percentage, bro. And over 14 years, nearly 80% is really freaking good. Yeah, I would 100% give Chris Peterson a call over Urban Meyer, for sure. I've seen Urban Meyer getting thrown around. I think Joel Klatt said LSU should go after Urban Meyer. No, I don't want Urban Meyer. A couple other names have been seeing thrown around. Marcus Freeman. He'd fit at LSU. I just don't want him, man. I just don't want him. I wouldn't feel right, honestly, about going and getting another coach from Notre Dame. I just wouldn't. It would feel wrong to me. I don't think he's going to leave anyway. He turned down interest from Penn State and Florida. He didn't turn down job offers, turned down interest, from Penn State and Florida. So it wouldn't be any different at LSU. I think if he were to leave to go anywhere, it would be Ohio State because he played there. Another name I've been seeing floating around is Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. I wouldn't mind him. I think, honestly, I'd probably take him over Drinkwitz. Dillingham's name just popped up in my head. I'd probably put Dillingham up there with Drinkwitz. I'd probably like the Dillingham hire a little bit more than Drinkwitz, because I think Dillingham would be a better fit. But yeah, man, that's my really top 6 that I'd like to see LSU at least look at, man. Frank Wilson. I keep wanting to call him Marco Wilson, bro. Yeah, Frank Wilson. is a wait and see kind of person. I'm not. If it came down to hiring a coach right now, I don't want Frank Wilson to be our coach. It's too much of a risk. Um, yeah, so I would say this is really my top five. If you put Dillingham and Drinkwitz together, this would be my top five: Kiffin, Summerall, Saban, Drinkwitz slash Dillingham, and Chris Peterson, with Frank Wilson being like the wait and see person. Um, yeah, man. That is my hot board for LSU in this coaching search. I'm really freaking nervous. But I'm glad Brian Kelly is gone, bro. I'm so freaking glad. Uh, LSU is gonna be so much better off with Brian Kelly being gone. The culture needs to be brought back. You need to get a coach who loves LSU, who gets Louisiana, who wants to be here, who wants to win, who is hungry, who is gonna bring back the physicality that LSU should have. We need it back, man. We need it. We need to nail this hire. Um, so LSU's a top 3 job in the country, in my eyes. Um, I'd put Ohio State and LSU 1 and 2, honestly, because they're the two teams that are the only schools in their state. The power. I guess Cincinnati, the Power 5 school, but it's nothing like it's like the Tulane to LSU is what Cincinnati is to Ohio State. Um, I'd have Ohio State and LSU 1 and 2, man, in whatever order you want to put them in. Um, LSU just it recruits itself. You got all the talent in your backyard. You really don't have to lead the state, but you're going to. Um, it's just the culture there, the tradition, man. It's gonna get the attention, bro. It's gonna remain the best job on the market until the position gets filled. But yeah, man, let me know your thoughts on this list. Let me know your list, who you want to become LSU's head coach. And yeah, man. Hope y'all enjoyed. If please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch y'all in the next one, man. Go Tigers.